got my hair cut, so I'm feeling like I'm fresh and ready for spring, even though it's cold and wet and rainy in Wisconsin. Hi friends, my name is Katie. Welcome back to my channel, Life Between Words. I'm bringing you another recommendation video today. This time I'm linking up with Top 5 Wednesday, which was created by Lainey from Ginger Reads Lainey, although it's transitioning over to be hosted by Sam from Thoughts on Tomes. I will link all that information down below. This week's theme is hard topics. This is kind of a hard one for me because I don't generally read books that are exclusively about something hard, but sometimes I do read books that have those themes woven into them. I actually filmed this video yesterday, and then last night as I was thinking about it, I was like, this really isn't the direction that I wanted to go, so I ended up deciding to redo it, so here I am redoing it. Some of the same books will be in, but you guys won't even know that, so let's just get started. The first book that I want to talk about is called Still Alice by Lisa Genova. This book is about a hard topic. It revolves around a hard topic, and that is Alzheimer's. It's about a woman who learns that she has early onset Alzheimer's and her dealing with that throughout the book and what that means in her life. I think the reason it's called Still Alice is that one of the devastating and tragic things about Alzheimer's is that you lose not only your memory, but everything else that makes up who you are, and how can you still be you when you're not you anymore. I know that's a terrible explanation. This is a very personal theme for me. Alzheimer's runs in my family, and my grandmother has Alzheimer's, and it's a terrible, terrible disease, and this book really hit close to home when I read it. And so it was hard for me to really love the book, but it explains it so well, and Lisa Genova does a great job of putting you into the mind of someone who is dealing with Alzheimer's. You know, early on my grandmother knew that she had Alzheimer's, and it was difficult for her, and she'd try to compensate for that, but you know, she's past that point now. She doesn't know that she has Alzheimer's. C.S. Lewis said something like, "You aren't a body, you are a soul, and you have a body." And I believe that although Alzheimer's has taken away my grandmother's mind, her soul is still intact. And I believe that when she dies, she will be restored to who she was. That's what I believe. But it doesn't make the disease any less painful and terrible and awful and evil in this life. Anyway, I do recommend Still Alice, but it is a really difficult read. Sort of going off of that, there's a book that I'm currently reading right now. It's a middle grade book, and it's called The Day the Angels Fell. It's by Sean Smucker, I think Sean Smucker. That book deals with death, another really hard thing that happens to all of us. It's the one thing that connects every single person in this world. No one can escape it. But that also doesn't make death any easier. This book follows a little boy who in the first couple chapters loses his mother in a tragic accident. And the whole book is about him grappling with the death of his mother. He wants to find a way to bring his mother back, but what the book explores is the idea that even if we could bring someone back from the dead, should we? There are elements of magical realism in the book, and it does have some Christian themes, but even those I would say aren't overbearing. They're just part of the story being told. This is the kind of middle grade book that I love to read. It deals with hard, difficult themes, but it's never heavy-handed, and there's a lot of truth in the book and wisdom that you can take away from it. The next book that I want to mention is another middle grade book. It's called Wonder by R.J. Palacio. This book is about a boy named Augie who has a craniofacial deformity. He's been sheltered by his parents most of his life until middle school, when they decide to put him into a mainstream school. And he ends up dealing with a lot of bullying and cruelty, because that's kind of how middle school is. It can be really cruel, and when you have even more stacked against you, it's even harder. Ultimately, the messages of this book surround the idea that beauty isn't something that we look for on the outside, or it shouldn't be. Beauty should be something that we look for on the inside. It's such a beautiful story, and I feel like everyone, whether or not you're in middle school or a middle grade reader, should read. It's so important, and it's so wonderfully told, and you fall in love with these characters so much. I highly recommend this book. The next book that I want to mention is the first book in Tana French's Dublin Murder Squad series. So this is a detective novel. It's called In the Woods, and it follows our detective Rob Ryan, who as a child was playing in the woods with two of his other friends, and they were attacked. His two friends were killed, and he was the only one left alive, but he doesn't remember anything. And then 20 years later, in that same woods, there's another murder. So he goes back to investigate this new murder, and it brings up a bunch of issues in his own life that he has never fully dealt with. This is as much about Rob Ryan's issues as it is a detective novel trying to figure out the current crime. There's a few different hard themes dealt with in this book, and it's all done really, really well. The last book that I want to mention is a classic, and one that I was introduced to by my aunt when I think I was about 14 years old, and it has stuck with me ever since. I reread it every so often, and I love it so much. I just think it is so great. And that book is A Tree Grows in Brooklyn by Betty Smith. At its core, this book is a coming-of-age story, but it deals with really hard themes because our main character, Francie Nolan, is growing up at the turn of the 20th century in the slums of Brooklyn, New York. Not only does this book deal with poverty, but Francie's father is also an alcoholic, and while he's a good man, because he's an alcoholic, he's unable to provide for his family. He's very inconsistent, and not only that, but he is doing so much damage to himself, and his family is left to pick up those pieces. This book is so beautiful and poignant, and although Francie's life is so difficult and in a lot of ways unrelatable because of that, Francie is such a relatable character because really it's about growing up and finding yourself and finding who you are and who you want to be. The synopsis of this book isn't always very compelling. People don't always want to pick it up because it doesn't sound like something that would really interest them, but it's so good. You guys, I can't tell you how brilliant this book is. I haven't reread this book in a while, and I actually would love to do a read-along of it. If any of you are interested in that, let me know in the comments below, and I'll try and put something together because I would love to introduce more people to this book. I haven't heard anyone on BookTube talk about it, and it's so wonderful, you guys. So those were my top 5 books dealing with really hard themes. I know some of them maybe fit that topic a little better than others, but I think they all apply, and let me know if any of those books sound interesting to you or what books you've read that deal with hard topics. I'm so glad that you watched to the end, and I am excited to chat down below. Thank you guys for dropping by, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye! I'm making a video, but I'm not going to be telling you about a video. I'm going to be telling you about a book. I have my cat with me. This is Peaches. She's been in some of my videos because it seems like every time I want to film, she likes to jump back up here. So anyway, that's not gonna work. Peaches, get your butt out of my face.